What is a true fact so baffling it should be false? Story 1. The Life of Frano Salak, the luckiest unlucky man in the world. January 1962, Frano was riding on a train through a freezing canyon when it fell into an icy river. All 17 other passengers died while he escaped with a broken arm and hypothermia. 1963, on his first plane trip, he was sucked out of the plane's door and landed in a haystack unscathed. 19 other people were killed in the crash. 1966, he was riding in a bus when it skidded off the road into yet another icy river. 4 passengers drowned while he only received some minor cuts and bruises. 1970, his car's engine burst into flames while he was driving, but he managed to escape before it exploded. 1973, in yet another driving incident, his car's engine was doused with hot oil from a broken fuel pump. This caused flames to shoot through the air vents, singeing all of his hair. He was otherwise unharmed. 1995, he was hit by a bus but only sustained minor injuries. 1996, to escape a head-on collision with a United Nations truck on a mountain curve, he swerved into a guardrail that broke on impact. To save himself, he jumped out of the car's open door and grabbed onto a tree branch as he watched his car plummet off the cliff. Suffice to say, the guy has a complicated relationship with the Grim Reaper. This sounds like the absolute best sequel to the Final Destination movie series I've ever heard. Final Destination Frano. This time, death has met his match. Story 2. If you're launching from Earth, the most difficult place to reach in the solar system is the Sun. The reason for this is that to fly directly into the Sun, you need to first launch from Earth and then remove all of your orbital velocity around the Sun. Anything less will just put you into a different orbit around the Sun rather than directly into it. The amount of power required for that to do it directly is basically impossible currently. As an alternative, you could, for relatively little power, fly all the way out to Pluto distance, slow down much less, and then fall back into the Sun. The trade-off being the travel time is now about 90 years. There are other in-between paths that could get you there for different balances of energy and time, but all of them are tougher than getting basically anywhere else in the solar system with an equivalent balance. There's a mission currently traveling to study the Sun, the Parker Solar Probe. It won't be flying directly in, but plans to make the closest passes than any probe ever has. It's going to make 7 passes by Venus to shed speed so it can get closer and closer to the Sun. The full flight time is planned as just less than 7 years. As of this post, they are 1 week shy of a year in. Story 3. There is an extremely rare condition called Stoneman syndrome. It causes any smallest damage done to tissue to regrow into a bone. Speaking briefly, people affected by this sickness slowly turn into living statues as they get older. I saw a documentary on that once. One advanced sufferer had to explain to a young girl with the syndrome that at some point she was going to have to make a choice. Be frozen forever standing up or be frozen forever sitting down, and the pros and cons of both. Utterly chilling. Edit, I have managed to find the documentary and have timestamped it to where her mother, not the kid herself, I misremembered, meets Robert Kinghorn, the man I mentioned. As of 2016, she was still going, age 17, although the disease had progressed. What's the pro to standing? Sitting, you can at least get wheeled around in a wheelchair. Edit, since this comment broke 1K upvotes, I decided to look into this. I found an article about one man who said he chose the standing position and is happy with that choice. He has a wheelchair he can stand in that also lays him into bed. Standing, you could lie flat in bed too. Sitting, you could have a nice recliner though. Pooping would be easier too. Wikipedia. Surgical removal of the extra bone growths has been shown to cause the body to repair the affected area with even more bone. I'll never sleep again. Adult patients eventually have to decide on what position they wish to predominantly take for the rest of their lives. This was creepier for me. I'll take the coffin pose, please. And if you could just go ahead and throw me the F in it because I'm done. Just make me into a coat rack. I know folks like to joke, but hey, living is living. You do the best with the hand you are dealt. And while I do feel bad for what those people have to deal with, I do hope they can still lead a fulfilling life. Also, if I had to choose, standing, please. Story 4. There were more planes destroyed in World War I than there are currently intact planes on Earth today. I mean, everyone was making a crap ton of planes. A crap ton of crappy planes. Commercial airliners nowadays are pretty sick, and in terms of military planes, the dominant air force in the world is taking a quality over quantity approach, despite also having quite a few, but yeah. Edit. What I meant by crappy was vastly simpler designs that were more conducive to more quantitative production because World War II in a lot of facets was a numbers game. Like, they did the same thing with tanks. It didn't make sense to pour too much money into any given piece of hardware because it was just going to get blown up since the technology didn't exist to prevent that in any way. These days, they can do that with planes at least because it's kind of hard to hit something that's literally going as fast as a bullet. I got a lot of responses about how World War II planes weren't actually crappy, and I agree, I was just using coarse language. Story 5. The longest time between two twins being born is 87 days. I see these threads a bunch, but this answer has me interested. Gonna look up the source on that one. Kilkenny, Ireland gave birth to twins Amy Ann and Kate Marie Katie Elliott 87 days apart, making them the twins with the longest interval between their births. The twins were born at Waterford Regional Hospital. Amy was born prematurely on the 1st of June 2012, and Kate followed on the 27th of August. Guinness World Records. Seemed like that would be a crap load of stress for the unborn twin in the womb. As long as they are polyzygotic, non-identical, meaning two placentas, two amniotic barriers, etc., then yes, there was probably a crazy amount of jostling, but as long as the water didn't break, the second one is good to simmer indefinitely. If you've been friends with twins, you've probably heard them bring out the frankly overdone joking around about who is older because, well, I am 10 minutes older, so I am technically blah, blah, it's pretty overdone. But in this case, I feel like Amy Ann could definitely make a case that she is absolutely the older sibling. Story 6. People were deliberately infected with malaria to cure their syphilis, and the man who developed this treatment, Julius Wagner Jauregg, received the Nobel Prize for it. The extremely high fevers of the malaria infections killed the syphilis bacteria, then the patients were cured of the malaria using quinine. Quinine is the reason tonic water glows under blacklight. Today I learned tonic water glows under blacklight. Yeah, what the F? Why aren't we serving gin and tonics at Halloween parties? Some of us are. Well, of course, the booze, which is serving gin and tonics in the Halloween party. Story 7. More people died making the V-2 rockets during World War II than were killed by them. Another fun fact about V-2 rockets, Germany was facing a large issue with rocket fuel shortages during the project because people kept drinking it. The fuel was made from 70% ethyl alcohol and 30% water distilled from potatoes. It was the most economically viable fuel at the time since they were already very low on other fuels. To stop workers from drinking it, they denatured the alcohol, essentially poisoning it, but people kept drinking it anyway and getting extremely ill. This caused people to start leaving the V-2 program, suggesting that they were only in it for the free alcohol. This also means that any alcohol over 70% AVB is stronger than actual World War II rocket fuel. Story 8. Switzerland has accidentally invaded Liechtenstein thrice in the last 50 years. On the first time in 1976, the Swiss military got lost and ended up in Liechtenstein, so the Liechtensteiners offered them drinks like proper hosts. The second time in 1992, the Swiss military forgot that a certain observation post was actually not in Swiss territory but in Liechtenstein's territory, so they just said sorry and forgot about it. Then again, in 2007, the Swiss army got lost and entered Liechtenstein, but eventually realized they weren't in Switzerland anymore, Toto, so they turned back. Liechtenstein didn't even know this happened till the Swiss apologized again, to which they basically said, "No problem, bro." Takeaways? The Swiss army is bad with directions. The Liechtenstein army people are chill bros. According to Wikipedia, Liechtenstein doesn't have a military. It has a police force that consists of 87 field officers and 38 civilian staff, totaling 125 employees. That's all, huh? Note, start world domination plans in Liechtenstein. Seems like it would be kind of a pushover. Story 9. You can boil water in a paper cup over an open flame. I thought witchcraft was outlawed. My dad showed me this when I was 4. Blew my mind. Story 10. There are far more tigers in private collections in Texas than there are in the rest of the world, wild or otherwise. Story 11. Ireland was a net exporter of food during the Great Potato Famine. Story 12. A morbidly obese person can survive with absolute starvation without any sickness or feeling ill under close control. There have been studies since 60s. There was a patient in 1973 who went under a 382-day starvation diet for therapeutic purposes under close control with only vitamin and mineral supplements and water intake without protein, carbohydrates, or fat intake. No food at all. Dropped from 207 kilograms to 88 kilograms and maintained it. After a follow-up checkup 5 years later, the patient was 96 kilograms, stabilized. Prolonged fasting had no ill effects. If anybody is curious about the article, the PUMD ID is PMC2495396. Keep in mind, for anyone tempted to imitate, multiple others attempted this after him and wound up dead. Do not try this at home. It requires very strict supervision. From what I remember, a lot of deaths are from when they start eating again. You have to start back extremely slowly. Story 13. A toner cartridge is more expensive by weight than a B-2 stealth bomber, which costs $2 billion. And it would be cheaper to print with human blood than printer ink. Yeah, but if you print with human blood, then you've got to find the human skin paper, and then you're just one printer error away from accidentally summoning demons. Not a mistake I'm willing to repeat just to save $5. Story 14. TSA's fail rate is over 80%. I personally know someone who, in his carry-on, accidentally packed a loaded handgun, made it on the plane, and was so freaked out when he landed, he UPS'd it back home and took a Greyhound bus after his trip. I know a dumb butt that flew internationally with a handgun in his checked luggage on accident, but still a dumb a-hole. He left Florida heading for South Korea with a layover in Japan. The Japanese found it, and he was arrested and spent over 2 weeks in jail. They let him go. A total friend of mine did the same thing with a folding knife. Story 15. Giraffes eat bones. Story 16. An eyewitness to Lincoln's assassination at Ford Theater told his story on national television. Edit. Based on suggestions below, I'm proposing a new version of this factoid which makes it sound even crazier, but still factually true. An eyewitness to Lincoln's assassination at Ford's Theater appeared as a contestant on a nationally televised game show with Lucille Ball. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 17. The youngest mother to give birth became pregnant at 4 years old. Story 18. There was this French guy named Tarare in late 1700s that could eat anything in any amount. He was able to eat half a cow in one sitting and ate dinner for 15 for one meal when he was being tested. He was even able to swallow an entire eel with bones included without hesitating. When he went to the military service, they used him as message transport, but after being captured, he went back and tried to find a cure. In the hospital where he was staying, he was suspected of eating a baby, so they kicked him out. He was average weight, and when he died a few years later, they could see inside his stomach just by opening his mouth. Here's a video which explains it in better detail. They suspected him of eating a baby. He was caught multiple times eating corpses in the morgue, if I recall correctly. Tarare, look at me. Did you eat a effing baby? Dude, this is easily the most disturbing fact on this list, if you ask me. There is something about a human just eating anything like that, and also being able to see into his stomach by opening his mouth? That's a horror movie. I am going to have nightmares. Story 19. Cheetahs can't roar, but they can meow like house cats. Whoa, is this legit? Googling now. Edit. This has been the cutest part of my day. Story 20. In chess, there are over 9 million variations after just 3 moves each. 288 billion different possible positions after 4 moves each. In a complete game, there are more possible positions than there are electrons in the observable universe. Story 21. There is a theoretical possibility that a child can be born that has 2 biological fathers and 1 biological mother. Inherits DNA information from 2 different men and 1 woman. Search for heteropaternal superfecundation and chimerism for those who are interested. Edit. I'm talking about a form of chimerism which would result from heteropaternal superfecundation, where 2 eggs fertilized by different men merge and result in a single child. Story 22. A million seconds ago was the week before last, July 24th. A billion seconds ago was 1988. Story 23. President John Tyler, born in 1790, has 2 living grandsons. A similar one I like is that there is a living person who is the daughter of a U.S. Civil War veteran, at least as of 2017. And she gets to draw a Civil War veteran's pension. 50 cents a month? Good living. It's so weird how recent things that far back in American history are. Like, we think of Lincoln and the Civil War and stuff like that as being almost ancient, but it's like, nah man, that crap might as well have been a few weeks ago as far as human history is concerned. Story 24. Mike the Headless Chicken lived without a head for 18 months. Story 25. If you earned $1 every second, it would take 2,921 years to have more money than Bill Gates. It's okay. I think I'll survive earning $3,600 an hour. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the silver. Yeah, 31.5 milli years. Fine. Story 26. Only 4 people have been to the Challenger Deep, the deepest part of the ocean. One of those people is James Cameron, the director of Titanic. Didn't he make the movie Titanic as an excuse to visit the actual wreck? Story 27. The Planck scale is the smallest known unit of measurement. If you were to expand a single atom until it was the size of the observable universe, about 92 billion light-years in diameter, a single Planck unit at this scale would be about the size of an average tree. I sat here thinking about that for a little bit, and I'm not having a good time. I feel like I'm high, but it's a bad trip. Story 28. Stalin, Hitler, and Freud all lived in Vienna at the same time. Imagine a sitcom with them all as roommates. Damn it, Stalin, stop eating my food. It is our food, Freud. I will stop eating it when you stop banging your mother. Will you two Untermenschen kindly shut the frick up? I'm trying to paint. I can't F this up. It's my last chance to get into the academy. Top 10 anime tragedies. Story 29. The phrase plastic surgery has nothing to do with the material. Plastic surgery as a field predates the development of plastics by 70 years. The two terms simply share a Greek word root meaning sculpted or reshaped. Story 30. TASER is actually an acronym for Thomas A. Swift's electric rifle. TASER. Story 31. A 500-pound cigarette-smoking, beer-drinking brown bear named Wojtek was enlisted in and served in the Polish army during World War II. Private Wojtek helped the Polish win the brutal Battle of Monte Cassino and was even promoted to corporal. Following the war, he retired to Scotland. Amazing share. I will name my firstborn son Wojtek. Story 32. From 1613 and 1622, a samurai traveled to Rome by way of Mexico. During this time, Shakespeare was still alive, Virginia had been founded for around a decade, Galileo was accused of heresy, and Pocahontas arrived in England. He met the Pope and he was made a Roman citizen. His name was Hasakura Tsuminaga, and was the last Japanese person to officially visit Europe until around 1860. What? I mean, yeah, I think about it, and all of these things happened at the same time, but you don't tend to learn about them at the same time because they're in different places, so you don't think of them in that way. This is wild. Story 33. Saddam Hussein was an erotic romance novelist in his spare time as the dictator of Iraq. Sauce? Is that why his character is such a romantic in the South Park movie? Come on, guy. Story 34. Whale reproduction involves 3 whales, 2 to do the nasty and 1 to keep them from sinking. Talk about third wheeling. Story 35. If you shrink down our sun to the size of a white blood cell, the Milky Way galaxy would be equal to the size of the continental United States. Space is huge. Story 36. When Mount Everest was first measured, it was exactly 29,000 feet. It was reported as 29,002 because exactly 29,000 was not believable. I'm picturing someone standing at the bottom with a tape measure and someone running all the way up with the other end. Story 37. The color orange is named after the fruit. Before, the color orange was called red. This is why people with orange hair are called redheads. Story 38. GPS satellites have to compensate for time dilation because time runs at different rates in orbit. Story 39. There is no universally accepted definition of vegetable. It's a cultural and culinary term and varies from place to place. If my son hates it, it's a vegetable. Problem solved. You want to further confuse people? A lot of what we call vegetables are technically fruits. We have all heard that tomatoes are actually fruits, but guess what? So are sweet peppers, cucumbers, zucchini, peas, olives, corn, chickpeas, and more. Palm trees are technically grass. Science is obnoxious, and I love it. Story 40. Greenland extends east of, west of, south of, and north of Ireland. Story 41. If sound could travel through space, the roar of the sun would be deafening even though it's 93 million miles away. That crap makes a sound? Yup, the sun is 290 decibels. If space could carry sound, it would still be 125 decibels by the time it got to Earth. It'd be like a jackhammer everywhere all the time. Of course, if that happened, we'd probably evolve to be deaf in that audio spectrum so we wouldn't notice. Story 42. 17-inch pizza is bigger than two 12-inch pizzas. Story 43. Even if 99% of Earth's population thought you were unattractive, 76 million people would still find you attractive. So you're telling me there's a chance. Too bad those 76 million people never see me. Edit. What the F? Didn't expect so many likes. Thank you. You find 99% of them unattractive. For the remainder, either you or them are too nervous to approach or talk to each other. Story 44. Spearfish, South Dakota holds the world record for the fastest recorded temperature change. On January 22, 1943, at about 7:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, the temperature in Spearfish was -4 degrees Fahrenheit, -20 degrees Celsius. The Chinook wind picked up speed rapidly, and 2 minutes later, 7:32 a.m., the temperature was +45 degrees Fahrenheit, +7 degrees Celsius, above zero. The 49 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius rise in 2 minutes set a world record that still holds. By 9 a.m., the temperature had risen to 54 degrees Fahrenheit, 12 degrees Celsius. Suddenly, the Chinook died down and the temperature tumbled back to -4 degrees Fahrenheit or -20 degrees Celsius. The 58 degrees Fahrenheit or 32.2 degrees Celsius drop took only 27 minutes. Story 45. Nintendo was founded in 1889. Before video games, Nintendo ran intercourse hotels in Japan. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.